much blood spilling. Each and every morning, it's weeping and mourning. We've got to stop up the crimes, erase the violence, let our voice be heard. We can't sit in silence. The hope of tomorrow is in our use today. We've got to live in love. Crime and violence don't pay.
We are back with more activated mornings right here on the Clean Fresh Sound, 99.9 WEFM. At this time, we are going to have our cup chat. And with us this morning, joining us for cup chat, we have Mr. Iraqi Huggins, who is a sergeant of police in the narcotics unit, Dr. Gerald Thompson, chief executive officer of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, and Mr. Terrell Mapp, chief operations officer of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. And this morning, we are going to be discussing medicinal cannabis in focus, understanding the regulations under the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act 2018. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning. And good morning to you, Dianna.
Internal joke.
All right. How are you doing this morning? How is everything? I see you matching in your blue. Okay. Isn't it blue? Am I not seeing right? Isn't it blue?
Green.
It's green. Oh wow. Okay.
Like turquoise.
Wow. Okay, my bad. I cannot see well, apparently. All right. So we are going to Mr. Mapp should join us shortly.
Okay, Mr. Mapp, are you hearing us? Mr. Mapp?
Perhaps not.
No. All right.
All right, so this morning we are talking all things medicinal cannabis. I don't know how many of you are very, very interested in this topic, how many are just interested, and how many are like, but we're going to be talking about that this morning. All right, medicinal cannabis in focus. Before we start with the questions, do you have any opening statements that you would like to make before we go straight into the question? So for anybody who may be listening for the first time and they're wondering, what is this Medicinal Cannabis Authority? I did not know that exists. What is medicinal cannabis?
Well, first of all, we are the entity that just recently brought off Cannabis SVG, and I know, Dianna, I saw you out
wow,
there.
Dr. Thompson.
So it's something that you and many other people should really know about. But let me say, cannabis is a substance. It's a narcotic. It's one of many, many, many narcotics. And I want you to know that there are several international treaties that govern narcotics like cocaine, heroin, that covers narcotics like fentanyl and other really interesting substances, morphine and all these other things. Now, in the case of cannabis, there are some places in the world and some people who believe that cannabis should be available recreationally, should be totally freed up. And then there's other persons who feel there should be a total prohibition, that there should be a total clamping down on the subject of cannabis, as well as other drugs. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have taken what's called the middle approach. That is the legalization of medicinal cannabis. We do not have a legalization of recreational cannabis like in Canada. And We did this in 2018, December 2018. And since then, we have put together lots of regulations. And so we have been able to do all of it. Now, the objectives of that Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act, and let me read it for you, is to establish a medicinal cannabis industry, to provide for lawful access for patients to medicinal cannabis as an alternative treatment for persons who are suffering from various qualified illnesses. There's a list of these qualified illnesses that people could be suffering from which they would be permitted to use medicinal cannabis. But the act also provide for the comprehensive licensing scheme to regulate the cultivation, the supply, the trade, the possession, production, and the use of medicinal cannabis. So that St. Vincent the Grenadines is one of those islands that have taken that middle ground. And by the end of 2025, can I surprise you? Almost every English-speaking island in the Caribbean would have legalized medicinal cannabis. Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados, St. Kitts, St. Lucia has already legalized. Belize has already legalized, but they're not an island. Trinidad has decriminalized, and within the next few months, Grenada and Dominica would have completed the process to legalize, not leaving any country out. Suriname has also legalized. The only country that may not have gone to this is Guyana. So 90-something% of the islands would have legalized for medicinal cannabis, none of which for recreational cannabis. And this is the middle ground. And St. Vincent, I would say, is considered as being at the forefront of this process. I want to be very careful to say we're the leader, we lead, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to get into those, chest beating kind of things. But I would say that St. Vincent really stands out as being an area where it's fairly well regulated, and the product and the quality, which we'll get into, is of a very high quality.
Okay. All right. So let me just test it. Mr. Mapp, are you hearing us?
Good morning. I'm hearing. Are you hearing me?
Okay. Yes, we're hearing you. All right. So lovely.
Wonderful.
All right. So
My
good morning
apologies.
to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and my apologies for the technical difficulties faced.
All right. No problem. You're here. You're here. We're hearing you and it's okay. All right. So so between Dr. Thompson and Mr. Mapp, what are some of the grounds for medicinal use?
Okay, the grounds for medicinal use. Let me say that I'm going to slip on my medical hat, even though I'm the CEO. And we use a mnemonic. People don't like me to do it, called AMP Minds, and AMPMINDS. A stands for appetite. People who have anorexia, can't eat, who losing weight. If you're a cancer patient, if you're an AIDS patient, if you're just a person who has been thin and you want to put on and stimulate your appetite, cannabis is one of those things that can stimulate that appetite. If you then metabolism, if you have bad nausea, I'm not talking saying if you're pregnant, but people who have received like chemotherapy and they're vomiting and they can't take tablets to stop and they don't want to take an injection. Some people don't want to take an injection because it's their human rights not to take the injection. Then
I see what you did there, but anyway.
Yes, I do. It is all right. Okay. They can use cannabis to suppress the nausea and the vomiting. And then pain. P is for pain. There are many different types of pain. Arthritis pain, sickle cell pain, lots of people. And guess what? Cannabis is an excellent drug in use of pain. And then mood disorders. Do you know the amount of people who have anxiety disorders, who just get flustered and scared for whatever reason, heights? And so basically cannabis, but this is a different form of cannabis, something we call CBD, is best for mood, anxiety disorders, and so. And then there's nerve damage. There's degenerative disorders. What's degenerative disorders? I'm talking about Alzheimer's. I'm talking about Parkinson's disease. You heard about these things. There's some evidence that cannabis helps with this thing. And then there's sleep disorders. Do you know the amount of people who just can't sleep? Amount of people can't sleep. Now, I want to say sleep disorders, anxiety, were all people who use cannabis for those reasons was always in the past considered to be illegal use. They were using it recreationally. Then, why do you take cannabis to help you sleep? Why cannabis to ease your anxiety? But now today, in St. Vincent Grenadines, in all other parts of the world, you can use cannabis for those conditions. So patients with those conditions rarely would do that. And you need to go to a doctor who qualify you and so forth, write a prescription for you, and then you're able to fill it and so.
So, right. So the reason for asking that question is it a case where if I go to a doctor and say that I'm not sleeping well, well, maybe not the appetite one, because that might be obvious, but I'm not sleeping well, or I have anxiety. Is it a case where you have to be going to this doctor over a period of time for them to diagnose you, or can you just go in that one instance for them to then issue you and tell you that you can use it? Because the reason I'm asking is, how do we differentiate between somebody who's going to a doctor, telling the doctor this or that, just to be able to be given the prescription, and that person is not abusing the system, or they're not using it? Well, I know that the CBD allows you to get high, but how do you safeguard the abuse of the system?
It's the THC, the one that gets you high.
Oh, the THC, okay,
the
right.
CBD doesn't get you high.
Okay.
When I practiced in the United States, I actually considered all persons, any single person coming in wanting cannabis, to want it to get high. And then, as an infectious disease specialist, I saw my AIDS patients using it and putting on weight. And many of them did come and get a recommendation, but many was able to go out and find the cannabis themselves. Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we want persons, and we will come to that, to get product that is of a particular quality, of a particular standard, of a particular amount of THC and CBD in it and so forth, so that they have that same experience. And I could understand what you're saying. Long ago, we used to think everybody was trying to fool us and trick us into getting, whether it's a prescription tablet for this morphine or Valium or what, any kind of thing. And that does happen. But today, 20% of our population, would you believe it, has sleep disorders. 5% would have anxiety disorders. So a lot of people actually have these conditions. But, we give people the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to tell somebody, I'm not giving it to you because I think you are potentially tricky. And there are going to be one or two persons who do that. But you know what? The vast majority of persons I've found do have some sort of condition, and you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you veer in that direction, as opposed to trying to send an investigator out after them to watch them and so forth and things like that.
Dr. Thompson, if I could just add that the law actually sets out those qualifying conditions that you mentioned. So they are in the Act, the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act. They are called medical qualifying conditions that guide the prescription by authorized doctors. So doctors who actually prescribe medicinal cannabis, they have to have a certificate showing that they're a doctor, and they have to go through that training by the Medicinal Cannabis Authority to understand the administration of medicinal cannabis. So they will detect, just as you asked, if somebody is coming to them, they should be able to detect that if somebody is coming to them for cannabis just to abuse it. And even so, when they prescribe, the supply is given in such a limited quantity to ensure that there isn't any abuse or misuse. I wanted to add that medicinal cannabis, sometimes there's this confusion that cannabis is just raw cannabis products to smoke. No, they are a plethora of products in the medicinal cannabis realm. So in St. Vincent has a comprehensive suite of products. We have raw cannabis flower, we have the tinctures, we have vapes. On the market, they have the lotion like a cream, and they have capsules. And the companies are studying the nether realm, which is edibles. You will find the elderly, they prefer like a gummy, which is easy to take and helps deal with their ailment quite quickly.
Okay.
So
All right,
if I may
guys.
add with
Right.
that aspect, there is an identification card that is given to the patient also. So that identification cards give them the lawful use of possess medicinal cannabis and not any other cannabis.
Yeah.
That cards name, date of birth, photographic picture, expiry date. It's run for 1 year. So
And let me add too, we do understand that there are going to be some persons that may not necessarily have gone through the medical route, and they may possess a small amount of cannabis, and the law permits them to possess up to 56 grams in their homes, in their place of worship. They could use it, but they must be sure not to use and smoke or utilize cannabis near a school, near someone else's church that don't necessarily want to use it. As I say, somebody could use it in a synagogue, but we're talking about certain denominations would do that. But in terms of others, they may not necessarily want it around them, and that is prohibited. And we don't really want to see it on playing fields and so forth. So
public transport.
those are restricted. But you are allowed up to a certain amount. But don't go in front of the barracks in Kingstown and say you're gonna smoke. And don't go in front of the barracks in Chatterley or Barreley and say you're gonna smoke, or in front of a policeman and say in public and say you're gonna smoke. That's not right.
But smoking in public it's an offense. But the police, according to the amended Act 10 of 2019, smoking in public place is an offense, but it's not an arrestable offense, and we cannot detain persons for smoking. But
So it's just a warning persons will get.
there's a ticketing system which we're still work in progress now to issue to them if that happens, and then there's a fixed charge that they must pay. If they refuse to pay, then we take it to get a summons to the magistrate, and they appear in front of the magistrate.
Is this based on the discretion of the officers though? Because I know of certain spots in Kingston I could show to pass and smell people
But yes,
smoking.
according to the Act, the Minister of Health should designate specific areas in Kingston for smoking purposes.
Oh, so that has that been implemented? No?
Well,
No?
Well, I'll tell you something. There are certain things that we regulate very strongly and others we don't regulate strongly, because what it means is that if somebody's passing, let me say that in terms of cannabis education, like this program is the important thing. And we are telling persons, listen, you are able to utilize medicinal cannabis or cannabis in general in your home, but don't use it in the public. There is another process that we have, and we've been working with the police of what's considered to be tolerance, and the police somewhat understand it. So the talking and the warnings are soft talking and warnings. It isn't coming really with a hard sort of thing. Now, this is only for small possession. Individuals with large quantities, that is going to be illegal. And I suppose we'll come into that at some point in time.
All right. So Sergeant Hawkins, you want to say something in relation to
as Dak was saying, that tolerance, and the police have been very, very tolerant when it comes to small quantities of cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sergeant Huggins, what have been some of the challenges with regards to the passing of this Cannabis Act that the police have observed? Because many persons are unsure. Many persons are saying that they don't have the license, but they're using it for medical reasons. What are some of the challenges that police officers have encountered since the passing of this particular act?
Well, we play a crucial role in supporting the MCA in this specific act. The regulatory enforcement ensure that licensed cannabis business follow regulations related to cultivation, distribution, sales, and advertisement. And it includes varying age restrictions. Some people, they do not, as Doc said, education is very important in this. They do not understand the act. Sometimes you encounter them, oh, you could plant 5 trees in the backyard, it's legal. We don't have to have license to smoke, we don't have to do this. And we'll try to educate them.
And if they say that they're using it because they have back pain or they have this or that pain,
well, they should have the identification card from the doctors to say, okay, then this is my identification card to use cannabis. So I'm using it legally because the identification card and the certificate gives you that authority to use and possess it.
Mm.
So that is some small quantities on the road. That's major problem, and some people are ignorant of the law. But we try to educate them, going out to schools, going out to churches, community groups, speaking with persons, and using this medium also, trying to educate the public on the use and the Medicinal Cannabis Act to stay in confines of the law. Sometimes people go over, and again, we are very tolerant in this aspect.
Okay, so I can be a license holder for medicinal use and plant for my own personal use.
Well, if you have the license to plant, traditional farmers license, if you have those license, that gives you the authority to do it. And if you're a caregiver or a patient and you have the necessary documents, then you're good to go.
Okay.
No, I just want to, I hope there's no confusion there. There are various types of licenses. Like a doctor will have a license to prescribe. A pharmacy will have a license to just dispense, not to cultivate. There's a cultivation license, there's a manufacturing license. So those licenses are just for those specific purposes. But some of the confusion, and I mean, there is a lot of confusion in cannabis for a multiplicity of reasons. One, you're taking something that has been illegal for years and you're trying your best to make it legal, formalize it into medicinal. That will take years to get perfect, to get to perfection, if it ever does get to perfection. And different countries have different systems. So for instance, one of the other Caribbean islands may say, they allow persons to plant 5 trees in their household. And it may be misinterpreted that it is allowed in Simbensu to plant 5 trees in your household. And then there will be persons who will want to understand that the law doesn't say so, but want to take it to another level in various countries. So those are the challenges that you will face, a lot of nuances in really taking something from illegal to legal. But I think Sergeant Huggins and Dr. Thompson and both of you are right to really get this on the right path. I mean, it's the right path, but to fast track it, it requires a lot of education, and not just here is a start and here is important, but going on into the communities and re-educating persons about the law.
And let me say, there are many persons who will be listening to this program and getting the information, but there are some persons who will ask someone else, what is this all about? And the person will give them some good information, but also some bad information, some bad advice that is incorrect in terms of how the law is interpreted, because they themselves may not have understood it. Now, there's also at any point in time going to be a number of persons who will be saying, look, let's roll this whole things back. Let's go back to the days where people are being locked up and people have a criminal record for possession of a spliff. And there are other persons who will be saying, let's go further and free it up. As I said, we have taken that very prudent middle rule and most of the Caribbean islands. Now, in some of the Caribbean islands, do you know you are not even allowed to smoke? They have a medicinal cannabis industry, but you're not allowed to smoke or use a vape. You could only use the manufactured products, a dropper under your tongue, rubbing a cream on your skin, or taking a tablet. But there's nobody making tablets. And I want to make this statement. We and the Sergeant, Rocky, will maybe substantiate that. Sorry to call you Rocky.
We know each other.
We have been seeing entities trying to bring in
I was going to ask that.
cannabis labeled as high grade from Canada and the United States. I want to congratulate both the police and the customs that they've been able to intercept. If we did not have, and this is happening in other parts of the Caribbean, other parts of the world, if we didn't have a medicinal cannabis industry of our own, I think we'll be seeing a reversal flow of product from North America into St. Vincent, coming in all forms, in barrels, and they've intercepted containers, trying to get in, or products in containers trying to get in. And now we have the methodology to scan containers and all this other stuff. I'm sure St. Vincent's not going to be one of the places. But having our own product here has helped to resist that product coming in. I will tell you this very clearly. Some of the product that they're looking to bring in is product that has failed the testing and regulatory processes in other countries. I'm not going to say those countries. And people say, well, we can't burn it, we can't throw it away. Let's ship it to somewhere else. Maybe it's easier to ship to the Caribbean. And we have to make sure we resist that.
Yes. So I'm not trying to harp on a pointer. Curious. Is it possible for me to get a cultivating license to use for medicinal purposes? Can I do that? And the reason why I'm asking is in relation to the 5 trees. That's I don't know if the 5 trees apply here. No, they don't apply here. All right. So that is why I need the clarification, right? Can I get a cultivation license rather than buying from those persons who are allowed to dispense? If I want to plant for my own medicinal reasons, can I do that?
Now, if you are a traditional cultivator, we actually have been in the process of issuing you with a free license. You don't have to pay for the license, but you pay $100 for the application fee. And yes, all you have to do is prove that you were a traditional cultivator. You, Roleza.
How you prove with a criminal record?
That's what I was gonna ask. Are there no implications for that?
A criminal record, a police record is actually what is used, because
go ahead. Good ma'am.
The way in which we have done the rollout of the medicinal cannabis industry, and from the parliament level who bipartisan approved the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act, is that we were very intentional in creating that space for traditional cultivators to make sure, because they are actually the one who struggled. They were stigmatized them and they pushed, and they were the one who pushed and told us that cannabis does have medicinal benefits, just like they have told us too much salt is not good, and they have been pushing the natural food and so forth. So we really recognize the importance of the traditional cultivators. But to answer your question specifically, it wouldn't be advisable for you to get a license to plant cannabis just for your own consumption, because the cultivation of cannabis and the labeling and all those requirements is very, very technical. It's very sophisticated, if you were to visit one of those farms. And it's a whole chain of licensing, because the cannabis companies have cultivation license, and those pharmacies that dispense cannabis, they have dispensing license. And
But
go ahead.
But you do see where the pushback sort of comes from, right? Because if for all these years the traditional farmers have been saying, and I'm not even looking at the illegal drug trade part of it, if they have been saying, well, this is what we've been using to heal this or to heal that. Now you're saying that in order for me to continue to use this to heal me, I need to now go and buy from somebody else.
Yeah, but no, the traditional cultivator, once again, can obtain a free license.
Yes.
Yes, and they only pay a small application fee. You, Roleza, who's not a traditional cultivator, would pay more if you wanted to. If you wanted to do it for medical purpose, it's best you do not go and cultivate for yourself. It's best that you get tried and tested product that basically meets it. But a traditional cultivator, I must tell you, basically can cultivate and probably also does use, but being a cultivator, basically that licensing essentially allows them some leeway in that regard. The police, once they have a cultivator's license, it basically covers a number of things. However, if you are just a user and you want to use, you will get a medical license, right? And that's a simple process through a doctor, because you have a condition and so forth. You meet the criteria, the physician evaluates you and so forth, and basically is able to go through. So I don't think there's really a distinction or discrimination against traditional cultivators. They are well covered by their traditional cultivators license.
How many of those traditional farmers with license? Well, I don't know if you could tell me how many, but give me an estimated figure or something.
We not only could tell you exactly how many, we also provided information to our colleagues so that they know, so that if for any reason or the other they pick up, they would call us at the MCA or they would look at their list and so forth, and they would know these things. Now we have a number of traditional cultivators groups, and some of these groups may have 100, 150 members in it, and we have the names of those individuals. And then we have individuals who have also been licensed. So we have close about 200 licensees. We have about 10 groups of about 50 to, all of them are varying sizes, 50 to 70 to 80 members in them. And so we know the numbers. And guess what? More recently, it's a lot like illnesses. I'm going to talk about like the vaccine. Some people might have been skeptical in the beginning. Me not bother with that. That's stupidness. Me do my own thing. And we've seen recently where individuals have been coming forward and getting the license. Next Tuesday, we're having a meeting in Chateaubriand. And for several hours, those persons who have not as yet got their license could go and bring their documents and so forth, and they could get their picture taken and so to further get their traditional cultivators license and so forth. That's next Tuesday in Chateaubriand.
But if I may step in here, concerning the traditional cultivators license. A traditional cultivators license which shall be issued solely to a person who is a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to grow, harvest, trim, cure, or package medicinal cannabis. So those aspects that I just laid out, that's how the traditional cultivators, that covers them to go cultivate, harvest, trim, dry. So the law gives them that privilege. As Doc said, we have a very friendly, professional working relationship with the MCA, the police. The narcotics unit is the focal point between the MCA and the police when it comes to that. If we have any questions concerning traditional cultivators, you might look up somebody and say, officer, me have my license. You ask them to present it, they cannot. One telephone call away from Mr. Map. Run this record for me, please. Mr. Map will say, okay, yes, Sergeant Huggins, this person do, or this person does. If the person have, then we leave them. If they do not, then we take a different course of action.
I hear you.
And guess what? St. Vincent and the Grenadines is unique in this regard. We are, I must tell you, one of the only islands, one of the only places in the world where the traditional cultivator is given such respect. A free license, only the application fee, and that there are certain, other privileges and so forth, and that the police have gone a little beyond what is there in the law to add that little process of tolerance to the process. Long ago, I know people used to be arrested for possession of a spliff and so forth. That doesn't, Sergeant, does that happen anymore?
No.
Okay, right.
As we previously said, that it's way below 56 grams.
Yes.
So we take it, we give them a warning. But according to the Act, we cannot arrest or detain persons for less than 56 grams.
And the person, and I want to reiterate, please don't go and smoke cannabis in front of a barracks or a police station. Don't go do that.
Our school, and I want to add, don't go and sell cannabis to any persons at a school, at a church. The law will be very, very, the law is very, very
under the age. Yeah.
very, very serious. In
When it comes to the school, they're drug trafficking. Anyone caught with marijuana around a school, anywhere that a school is using for school functions, it could be a playing field, victory party, having sports. You go there and you can be charged for drug trafficking. And drug trafficking is a very serious charge when it comes to drugs.
Okay. And I suppose in the selling of for medicinal use, it has to be packaged and that sort of thing. Is it like properly labeled, etc.? How would somebody identify it? Well, then again, no, it's only certain person supposed to be dispensing. So
Well, yeah, there are
Right.
there are a couple of dispensaries around St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
So the traditional farmers supply their products to those dispensaries to give that out?
Map, you answer that?
Well, I must say that the rollout of the medicinal cannabis industry envisaged that the traditional cultivators and the investor companies who have the capital to develop sophisticated giant facilities, manufacturing facilities, and who have those market linkages will form an interaction. Well, that's how it started. And that
Ma'am?
interaction will, you hearing me?
yeah, I'm hearing you. But if you could, okay, if you could probably just get back to somebody's been trying to call, so just want to entertain the call, please. If you don't
Okay.
mind. All right. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
All right, about a
Hello.
minute. Morning, a minute, please.
A minute?
Yes, a minute.
Well, I will not.
We have other
okay.
persons trying to call.
Okay, I can't make a minute because this is too troublesome a topic to deal with. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Dave. All right. So the other person was trying to call. You can try calling now. Map, if you don't mind, you could continue, please.
Yes, so we had about, when we started in 2019, about 26 major investors who had already formed relationship with traditional cultivators and who had already given that agreement to buy the products from them and to really process it into oil for sale. Then COVID happened. That number reduced significantly. Then there was volcano, which reduced that number even further. So that relationship of purchase and sales has really been disrupted and is we're trying to get it back. It's trying to given that the recovery in the global economy. So
Okay,
there are
Map,
companies.
Map, we have a caller here.
Okay.
All right. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Yes, let me say, President, good morning to you.
Good morning.
know I have a minute.
Yes, you have a minute.
The question is, what is the yardstick used to determine a traditional cultivator?
Yeah,
I'm listening.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
it's a simple one. Sometimes there has been a previous arrest, there's been some record, or you can get the what's the honorary, not honorary council, the
Justice of peace.
JP, yes, the JP of the peace. Go ahead, Map. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
You could get the justice of the peace, who basically can sign and say they know that I have been basically part of it. Or you could be also part of a grouping, a traditional cultivated grouping, and that covers you.
All right. So we have another call. Hi, caller. Good morning.
It's the same call. I was actually listening line because I had a follow-up.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I listened to Mr. Thompson said that you can have, if you have an arrest.
Yes.
But how many arrests qualifies you to be a traditional farmer?
No, I'm saying that's just
Iraqi.
one, but all it means is just one. But basically, this is done
One
really
arrest
through.
with Mr. Thompson,
Yeah.
one arrest for what?
Right. The point is that even having been accused, they've been acquitted, or whatever the case may be. But it's the simplest process is getting a justice of the peace from your area who really would know most of these people to sit and write a letter indicating that you were at some point in time in the past, 10, 15, 20 years, engaged as a traditional covenant. I do not think that there has been many persons who've been denied or refused because now if Roleza or Dianna came and said we're traditional cultivated, we would say no. That is, I doubt that's the case. But we know.
I am thinking, Mr. Thompson,
Yeah.
that there are many persons who claim to be traditional farmer and never plant a seed.
Well, you know, do you know the act also states that if you are a relative, let's say you're the son of a traditional cultivator.
I have a limited knowledge of here, very limited, but
Yes,
I'm not saying that's about here.
But you know, I want to emphasize this. If you know of any traditional cultivator who's been denied, that's one thing. But if you know of persons who now, there are a number of people who what we call local cultivators. We know they're not traditional cultivators, so they get a different license, a local cultivator license, and they basically are not traditional. They would pay a license fee, and I don't think that on my review of the books, there's anybody who claims that they're a traditional cultivator who did not qualify. I want to stand clearly here and say that. I don't think that is, I don't think anybody has been able to cheat the system and so forth to say they're traditional cultivators and basically they were not.
Is there an age limit for this though? At what age would you start?
That was my next question.
Yeah, lovely.
We just say standard is 18. Somebody.
But then at 18, I can't be a traditional farmer.
No, you can't be at 18. It was person from 18, persons typically 18. But if somebody say they were treasurer at 11, no, we're not going to consider that, you know.
If I may step in here, where you come so
All right,
call. Just hold on a second, please. Hold on.
You have another. Wait, let me. You have another point, caller. You could probably ask the question, and then Sergeant Huggins could address everything together.
Okay, I will listen off.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Now, we're kind of running over time, so let me just apologize one time for the overlapping of the time. All right, go ahead.
The traditional cultivator license may be transferred to a person who is not a traditional cultivator, according to the act. Where exists a close familial connection to the family.
So like son grew up seeing father planting?
Yes, it can be transferred from the father to the son. And in any circumstance that the authority consider appropriate, so the MCA, if they see something considered appropriate, then it can happen.
Now, this is only related to how much you actually end up paying for the license. The traditional cultivator license has been free of charge. But what is being said there, if you're not a traditional cultivator, you have to now be either a local cultivator or a major cultivator. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, as the local cultivator now pays a fee, and that's the only distinction, really. You know what I mean? The traditional cultivator under the Act, I think we're trying to grandfather them. We're trying to make it easier for them to come in from the cold, right? To make sure you're registered and that you basically are known to the system. There are still persons out there who had decided they're traditional cultivators, they're cultivating illegally, but they are taking their chances out there. And they do not have even a traditional cultivator license or any other type of license. And they should try and obtain a traditional cultivator license so that they could fall into the system, and also that the police will have that greater recognition of the fact that if they're found with any product and they show that card, of a traditional cultivator's license, they'll be treated in a slightly different way to if they did not have that card.
Dr. Thompson, if I could just add, Roleza, quickly, is that what made this law so robust? And when Sergeant Huggins spoke about transferring the license and so forth, where those provisions came from is really the extensive consultations that went into creating the law. So in select committee, it wasn't just parliamentarians. You had the government side and you had the opposition side, but you had the traditional cultivators there at each consultation. You had the Rastafari movement there. You had the medical community there. You had the police force, the leadership of the police force there, the attorney general, and investors entity. So when you look at the law tried its best to not really to make the system nimble, flexible, to understand the realities that traditional cultivators played in pushing medicinal cannabis and the importance of having a system that engenders or enables investment, because you need the investment to create modern medicinal cannabis industry, as you spoke about, Roleza, the packaging and the sophistication that is needed to build out an industry. And you need to the involvement of the medical community with respect to prescription and the pharmacies with respect to dispensing to make the thing medicinal. So the law really tried its best to find some sort of middle ground among so many stakeholders. But what makes it confusing and difficult is that you're taking something that has been illegal for years and trying to formalize it. And again, every single country has something different. So there is still this confusion in Simvinsu that you could plant 5 trees or 4 trees in your backyard because other countries in the Caribbean has done that. But we haven't gone that way because that threatens the banking solution, which Simvinsu alone has. Simvinsu is the only country in the Caribbean that has a banking solution where investor entities can send money from abroad to pay for the license, to establish cultivation farms, to establish manufacturing facilities. And our banking solution allows a traditional cultivator who has a license
To do
to go to
banking.
the bank and to set up an account. And when he gets his proceeds for cannabis, and traditional cultivators have been paid for the cannabis. That was the question I was answering. A lot of the refined products, the vape, the lotion, and the capsules, the oil, the extracted oil, really came from raw cannabis products. A lot of it came from raw cannabis products from traditional cultivators that was bought by investor entities and processed into oil. But the investment to create a manufacturing facility and to achieve good manufacturing practice, that's over 7, 8, 9, $10 million. It's a lot of money to create such investment. And we have those investments in St. Vincent. So traditional cultivators products are actually on the market, but through that relationship with investor entities who have processed it into oil and package it, well packaged, to create something that is modern, and traditional cultivators have been paid in check and have been able to go to a bank and deposit that money into a bank, which exists only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines because we have a banking solution.
The processing is happening here.
Yes, manufacturing.
The manufacturing plants here in St. Vincent. As a matter of fact,
good manufacturing.
Mr. Mapp and I went to another island and we sat down with some officials and they had to ask the question, why aren't those products, I took over some boxes, empty boxes of products and so forth, and to show them the packaging, the labeling and so it's being done in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And they would say, why isn't that being made in our country? You know? And I must tell you that our hope is that because of what we've done with cannabis, the industry has grown to be other islands in the Caribbean are looking at the purchase of Vincentian products and helping the creation of that industry. You know?
Right. So
well, I hope we're not there.
I kind of have two questions I really want to ask before we go. I haven't really asked much. Bearing in mind that we're out of time. So the traditional cultivators and Rastafarians that were at the consultations, where are they now? Where are they in all of this? Do they have a seat at the table? And my next question, which is probably one of the biggest questions, if marijuana is legal for medicinal purposes, why is it illegal for recreational purposes? If you have proven that it indeed helps with these things and it can be legal to help with these problems, why is it still illegal? Or basically those two for now.
Well, I will answer the first one, Dr. Thompson, because we have said that traditional cultivators have been licensed, and Sergeant Hogan spoke about once they go on a farm and they meet that a traditional cultivator producing and they show that license, even if they haven't.
I'm not really talking about the license part. That seems like a small step to me compared to the entire.
And I don't want us to trivialize it because there isn't another country in the Caribbean or in the world that has granted a license to traditional cultivators, and that's what they asked for, and they won in the council. So I don't want us to trivialize it. Because without that license, if a traditional cultivator gets payment for the cannabis, they cannot deposit it into a bank account. So it must not be trivialized at all. That enables traditional cultivator a seat. And Dr. Thompson mentioned that we are going to have a consultation with traditional cultivators on Tuesday. We have meetings with them all the time, periodically. But the industry hasn't met full expectations because we must not forget that there was a COVID, there was a volcano, there was a Hurricane Elsa, there was a burial. And since the industry started, it has been so challenging to get it on a smooth path with all these shocks. But we are pushing, and traditional cultivators understand because they themselves have been impacted by the shocks, understand that how these shocks have really thrown things off. But if we continue to be focused and if we continue to push, progress is being made, and a lot more progress could be made if we continue to unite and to be focused. So I wanted to answer that question in that regard. So traditional cultivators are important. They are given a seat. They are giving us
Dianna, before
a small seed, a very small seed. They're not any influential positions, as I put it like that.
Well, Dianna, let me say, I remember meeting you at cannabis.
I know you're going to say that again.
Yes, I cannabis. No, why I'm segueing because
I went there to perform with my friend.
True, Dan. She was still there.
Yes, I don't mind. I don't mind either.
And we were dancing for a shot.
That has nothing to do with the question.
Everybody know Dianna and I we were dancing for a shot. But guess what? I'm going to invite Dianna to the upcoming Cannabis 2025. Which is going to take
invite me. You're giving me a free ticket.
Oh yeah, I'll give you a free ticket. And it's gonna be in October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of this year. It's going to be in Kingstown. It's not going to be at Annesville. We're using the Russell's Auditorium and the cinema, and we're going to be using Victoria Park and so forth for the show. Is that we bring it a little more central for a number of reasons, but and access and so we want you to really look out for. We're going to have major artists. We're going to have the expo. We are going to.
How does that come in with the traditional and Rastafarians now?
Because I knew you were about to end the show, I wanted to also fit this in. I know Mr.
doing
Mapp wanted to fit this in.
Okay.
So it's going to be a big,
Dr. Thompson,
big. Yeah.
Just to add that St. Vincent held its first cannabis event. Is the first one that had a whole traditional cultivator component. We had a traditional cultivator village. And traditional cultivators showcase what their talent, their food, their products, they sold products, they made money, and even in the remit of the catering to the delegates, a lot of the persons who actually came for cannabis.
I tell food was wonderful.
Well, I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna have to leave you with that because we don't have enough time. But that is not what I am looking for.
We've signed a treaty, an international treaty, and some people say, "Man, we are a sovereign country. Let's throw that away." Dianna is advocating full legalization for recreational.
You never said that's a question.
No, I know the question you asked. No, but
there are some persons. No, it's not.
About middle ground. There's some persons who will pose a question to us. Why don't you have full recreational and go the whole way?
If it's good the next for question,
the goose. Really said, you might then ask the next question, have we gone too far? And why don't we roll it back? And there's some young kids and so forth.
And things are only legal when the government stamps it.
Well, no. The point about it, we've told you that we have had traditional cultivators at the table involved in the process. But the development of the industry, the development of the industry is twofold. There's something we also call alternative development. Traditional cultivators today are some of the biggest producers of food, and they're part of the food security. We have distributed 100 acres of land up in Top Hill, beyond Richmond, to traditional cultivators so that they could plant food. We've done this in conjunction and consultation with the police. We're now trying to give them a hand up, seedlings of potato. We're trying to get markets for them and so forth in that regard. And we're trying in a number of ways. It's tough. It's difficult, with all these hurricanes and beryl and all that kind of stuff. And so, but we're still pushing. And I can't tell you that everything is perfect. I will never tell you that. But we're trying hard, and we want them to know. Some people will ask,
all right, so each of you will have 50 seconds to round off.
I cede my time to Terrell. Terrell, you tell my people exactly.
If we go recreational, there will be no banking. There will be no banking. So you're selling that cannabis recreationally, and it cannot get through the banking system. So you will just be creating informality, and if you don't roll out this thing in a framework, in a measured way, you may create problems for the police force. It has to be structured, and you have to do it in a way, as I said, how we did it in the consultation, that all parties are involved and you listen to the views of all parties, the police. The Christian community was there in the consultation. Their point of view is very important. And
Dianna, do you agree with that? The Christian Council? Sorry, but
I have a lot I could say about that council, but now is not the time.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Sergeant Mapp, have you finished?
Yes, I wanted to just say the middle ground is important when you roll policies and development and the consultation and the participatory approach to doing things is the best way, and not just to focus on extreme views. Extreme views can get you in trouble, because if you roll out a recreational industry, there will be absolutely no banking. All you would be creating is informality, and you could check in that banking system and cause those correspondent banks in the United States and Canada to cut off our banking platform, and you could check the remittances. So it's a whole vicious cycle if you don't think this thing out properly and our banking system. And then, I don't want to get into it, but it's that serious if we don't do it properly and consider all the implications.
Okay. And Sergeant Huggins, final word from law enforcement.
Well, we as law enforcement, we play a crucial role in supporting the regulated cannabis trade by compliance with the local, state, and laws. Ensuring that licensed cannabis business follow regulations to related cultivation, distribution, and sales, public safety and security, working with cannabis business to implement security protocols that prevent theft, diversion to black market, stuff like that. Illegal market suppression, actively targeting unlicensed operation that undermines the legal market and ensuring a level playing field for the compliance of business. Community education, as we are doing now, informing the public about the laws and safety measures related to legal and illegal cannabis use. Collaboration with regulators, partnering with the state cannabis regulatory, as we does with the MCA. And as I said before, we have a very, 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 very good relationship with them. Very good, very, very good. Training adaptation to laws. Adapting to changing laws, regulation through ongoing training and education program. By this, we focus on these areas, law enforcement support the growth of a safe and legal cannabis industry while protecting public health and safety.
And my 2 seconds, I want to thank the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, in particular the drug unit, for their cooperation and their collaboration, especially as they also work on other drugs, the new psychoactive synthetic cannabinoid spice and crack cocaine. I want to applaud them in their effort to suppress that particular use and prevent it from coming into the country. Thank you very much, Iraqi. Thank you, Royce Invisibility, because we are fighting against that. You may hear us we saying about cannabis, but I can tell you, I don't want fentanyl here. I don't want heroin here. I don't want crystal meth here. Don't want cocaine here. We don't want crack here. And we got to fight against those things. And I'm glad that resources are actually being pushed in that direction. Thank you very much, Royce Invisibility Police Force. And just remember, everybody, October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Cannabis SVG 2025. Looking forward to see Dianna and Roleza have tickets for you all and so forth. Okay? Yeah.
Righty then. And with that, we have come to the end of our Cup Chat here this morning. We went over time and we are so sorry to management, sponsors, everyone. Right? But we were discussing medicinal cannabis, understanding the regulations in the Medicinal Cannabis Act. We had Dr. Gerald Thompson, who is the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, Sergeant Iraqi Huggins from the Narcotics Unit of the Police Force, and Mr. Terrell Mapp, who is the Chief Operations Officer, Chief Executive Officer. Let me pull up. Chief Operating Officer of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here this morning for this talk, and we will see you again. Dr. Thompson, see you soon.
My pleasure.
And with that, we are going to head straight into our very late